Get it together, Mets. Figure out who your starters are.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Diamondbacks never have that issue. We know exactly who their 5 starters are at all times.
Exactly.
And I tell you, Wolf, looking ahead to the weekend series with the Dodgers, this is just the way it seems to line up. Now, things could change, obviously. Zach Gallen against Clayton Kershaw in the opener on Friday. I mean, this is going to feel like a 4-game playoff series.
Yeah, it is. Can I just say right now, is there anybody you'd want taking the ball to open that series more than Zach Gallen?
There is not.
I honestly, right now, here we go. His last start was one of the best starts he's had all season long. Went out and was lights out. Once again, you need your best players to play their best when it matters most. And you know what? When that series rolls around, that's going to be right there getting ready to head into September, correct?
Yep. That's going to take you right into September.
I do feel like we're kind of skipping steps, though, and overlooking our opponent in the New York Mets.
Yeah, and the pitchers in the Mets series are actually listed.
Well, we shouldn't.
We are, and yet I wonder if they are. That's going to be something, listen, the Arizona Diamondbacks are one of the best defensive teams in the league. Will they start booting balls?
Well, they always have a hard time with the Mets. That's what's like. You remember, there's been a couple years, in recent memory, where they would get late in the season and they would go to New York, and the Mets would basically just like sink their playoff chances or really put a dent in their playoff chances. I mean, they still made it last year, and it looked like earlier this season the Mets might be the team to really kind of, not end it for the Diamondbacks, but they were 7 games below 500. And they had lost 5 in a row, and they were already 0-2 against the Mets in that 4-game series going into June, and then that's when they turned it around. They won the next 2 games of that series against the Mets, and they haven't looked back since. They're 50-24 since then.
Right. But, thinking about what Mal just said right there, could you possibly be a human being and overlook the New York Mets? Because you're looking at that Dodgers series, and that Dodgers series. Now I realize, again, the Mets also, you're 7 games up on them in the wild card right now, right? 7 games up, and you could bury them. You could bury them. But what do you think are some indicators as to whether or not a team in the game of baseball is overlooking or losing its concentration? What would you say? For me, booting the ball in the field.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about losing your concentration?
Losing your concentration.
Yes. Defense, 100%.
Okay.
Errors, and with the Diamondbacks, it might even just be not making a great play defensively. But that, you know what? Actually, I take that back, because if there's a great play to be made, you're focused on it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's going to be more booting a ball or throwing a ball away.
Okay, how about this right here? Also, swinging at bad pitches.
You took both my answers.
Oh, really? Was that going to be another one?
Well, no patience at the plate would have been my second
there you
one.
go.
Yeah.
Swinging at bad pitch selection for the most part. How about this?
Popping up on like the first pitch, that, right? Like you're not
you're not focused. You're not concentrating on it.
Work the pitch count.
Giving
against
away
Sean
at bats for the most part. Also, too, base running errors. Gaffes on the base paths, right? I mean, these would be indicators you would look at and say, man, maybe where's your concentration? Where's your focus right here? So maybe those 3 things in particular, I'm sure a skipper would have many other things he might add to that. But for me, that's what I'm going to start.
I think in that order, too. I think the defense, somewhat routine plays. If there's if they start to make mistakes like that, or any team really, I think that's
not
the main side.
Diamondback baseball. It
no,
isn't.
So it's more noticeable with the Diamondbacks.
Yes,
because they tend to win with defense, although they also score 6 runs a game this year. So maybe it's not just that. 3 against the Mets coming up, and I will say this too: as they're playing the Mets, the Dodgers lead in to the 4-game series. The Diamondbacks. Have you seen who it is? It's Baltimore.
Oh.
So there's a real good chance if you take care of business against the Mets, you'll make up ground on the Dodgers. Now, again, I don't want to minimize the Dodgers. They have the best record in baseball. So it's only 3 games ahead of the Diamondbacks. There's a bunch of teams bunched up right there. Baltimore's one of them. But it's certainly possible they could lose a game or 2 to Baltimore. So
there's no doubt about that. I mean, Baltimore's excellent. One of the teams that is right there again It's incredible when you look at the big picture, when you look at the best teams in baseball. And guess what, Basinonians? The record is right there. It's the Diamondbacks are right there in terms of being in that conversation of the best teams in baseball. It's hard for me to imagine this because remember when we were having the conversations over and over and over again in regard to, man, could they just get to 500? That feels like that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It does. Could they just get to 500? And you remember how long it took them to get to 500 and get above 500? We were like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they kept going back and forth. Like, oh, okay, they got to 500. Now they lost
And
again.
now all of a sudden, here it is. Are you 19 games over 500 right now? And in the conversation from a record perspective as the best team in baseball.
I'm looking at the top 6 teams in baseball right now, and there's definitely one in here that I underrate. And you'll probably be able to guess it. So they're all separated by 3 games. The Dodgers are in first. The Yankees are a half game back. The Phillies are 1 game back of the Dodgers. And the Phillies are good, but we've seen the Diamondbacks beat them in a playoff series.
Yeah.
The Brewers are 2.5 back, and the Orioles are 2.5 back, and then the Diamondbacks are 3 back total. So 6 teams separated by 3 games, the top 6 teams in baseball. Milwaukee's the team that I underrate, and the Diamondbacks have not played them yet. They're going to play them 7 times here down the stretch.
Yeah. Oh, wow, 7 times down the stretch. Yeah, that's right. You said that earlier. I was ignoring you at that point in time, I think.
Just but the first 3.5 hours of the show.
I also say this right now, Cleveland. They're one of the best teams.
Yeah, they're a half game back of the D-backs.
Half game back of the D-backs right there. And yet I think of them, I underrate them because the Diamondbacks swept.
Thanks for watching Wolf and Luke. Tap to see more and click the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.